señalaron. Dijeron igualdad, pero esta vez me separaron. Dijeron mucho, pero no se olvidaron de callarse. Cuánto odio por mi piel sembraron. Dijeron historia y la tergiversaron. Dijeron guerra, muerte, odio y nos culparon. Enfermedades, epidemias nos contagiaron. Exterminación de mi fauna complace a tus mercados. Dijeron riqueza y todos se lo robaron. Oro, platino, diamante, a la fuerza se lo llevaron. Y la actualidad es tan triste que todo aquello que dijeron es lo mismo que hoy se dice más. ¿Quién dice, quién explota, quién se beneficia? El asesino, el mismo que da las noticias. Hay una cuenta fácil que siempre me da las grandes riquezas, de dónde vienen y hacia dónde van.
Independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao, independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao. Nati Dre es afroresistencia, cultura ancestral, afrodescendencia, solidaridad. Esa es la esencia, la diáspora africana eleva la conciencia, conciencia negra, universal, progresista y transcultural. Negros y mestizos revolucionando, pueblos caribeños y africanos en un solo bando. No más explotación, colonialismo interno, no más confusión, supremacía blanca en el Babilón. Soy rojo, negro y verde, afroliberación. Mientras más negro, más represión. Somos creadores, recupera tu visión. Mi misión es educar con amor, contra el silencio, vivo sin temor. Independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao, independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao.
Hello, hello, hello. Rise up.
Rise up.
I don't recognize this gentleman. Who is this gentleman to the left or the right, depending on what you know
what's going on? What's going on? It's me. It's me.
Oh yeah,
what's up, man.
We have to give the viewers an explanation. What the hell's been going on? We've all been busy. Personal, family, business, work, life. Shit, you know,
all of that mixed together,
all of that mixed together,
and more,
and more accumulates for a lot of episodes of the Rise Up not being administered onto this network. But nonetheless, we are here. We're back. We
glad to be back.
Yeah. We've all been doing our individual work, in our own individual realms of film, in realms of activism. So yeah.
Right.
Deeply happy to be back. You guys will actually be seeing me every day this week. So I haven't.
Nightmare Network.
Well, no, I'm saying here on the Rise Up, I'll be on every.
this week,
I'll be on every day this week. We don't know what happened. Kalanji won the lotto and disappeared on us, so we don't know what happened.
Dante Kalanji's on the move, man.
He's on a high tense sabbatical. But shout out to Kalanji Changa. Shout out to everybody at Black Power Media Reloaded. What's it been like for you, man? What's the weather like in France?
Man, it got real cold out here, man. It got super cold, and I work at a school right now. During the day, I'm outside, man. I'm outside. I'm outside, so for like an hour and a half. And so, it's tough, man. It's cold these days. So, but I can't complain, man. My children are healthy. That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a lot going on, though. I'm working, doing my online certification. I'm working on becoming a health and wellness coach. So I'm almost done with that. Still got some work to go. Doing some work with the Pan-African League. This past weekend was the Pan-African Universities in Paris. I wasn't able to make it this year, but shout out to the comrades, Buna and the rest of them. It went well. It went very well. I know I was able to follow some online, and then be part of the meetings and stuff. Afterwards. But yeah, we've been putting in some work, and got more things coming up soon, which I'll talk about in the near future. But that's that, man. I've been good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear.
How about yourself, man?
I mean, my network, we're now weekly. So we go Monday through Friday now. Sometimes Saturdays and Sundays, depending on the energy level, or the, complexity of, imperialism abroad and domestic. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind. I don't really want to get into any personal shit, but it's been a doozy. And so, yeah, I've been managing, doing my work, in regards to Leonard Peltier. Yeah, just I do a lot of fucking reading. And so that's what consists of most of my day is reading and writing, researching, going over things like, the Jay-Z court filing, which at this point I think is classified as, I don't think it's civil, but nonetheless, the situation in of it itself is jarring. It just goes to show you the complexities of the nature of white hegemony and how it has festered into our communities, especially in the wake of evangelical, democratic fascism. And so, I don't know if you want to get into that story first, because I know, respectfully speaking, we lost somebody last night that for the most part, it hit home a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't tear up, mainly because, one, I didn't know the person enough to tear up, but it definitely hit, because it came as a shocker. Nikki Giovanni ascended with our ancestors, right now, and it's a loss. It's a huge loss for the community, because for those that don't know, Nikki Giovanni was a trailblazer. She was someone who upheld the values of Black radical tradition, upheld the values of feminism, so much so that she had to sit in a room with James Baldwin and be gaslit about her own self-determination and sovereignty as a woman, and her how that fits in the African diaspora. And so it just came as a huge shocker, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because how Nikki has either affected your radical tradition, the Black radical tradition that you uphold, or just in any what form has she transformed your ideology. So,
man, Nikki Giovanni was definitely one of the greats, definitely rising power, rest in poetry. I remember, I also, I'm also an MC, I also do hip hop. So I remember, at some point I was reading quite a lot of, poetry and things like that, because that always helps. And I remember reading some of her things and, really thinking how brilliant she was, man. You know what I'm saying? But, she definitely, I was definitely affected by her, and, doing my research on her, learning who she was and what she stood for, and you mentioned, recently watching on right here on Black Power Media, it just came out, her interview.
Yeah, that's the video I was talking about.
Yeah, with James Baldwin, which is also great. It's an amazing sit down that they had, but it made me think about life, man, in general. Anytime we lose elders, it's getting deep, man. And as time goes on, I know you're a little bit younger than me, but time goes on, you start losing your peoples. You know what I'm saying? And you start realizing that, everybody, all the elders are gonna start going, man. That's how it is. That's how life
I
works,
witnessed it. I
Yeah.
witnessed it. I grew up in a house with my great grandmother, my great uncle, my grandmother. I slept in the living room. My whole family did for a long period of time. That's just how it was. And I slowly seen, and I felt like the kid at one point in my life. I felt like the kid in Soul Food, where he's just seeing his family just be so dysfunctional, especially in the wake of like their great grandmother, his grandmother, being ill and her being the backbone of holding all of that together. I've actually seen that. My great grandmother was a backbone of our, our family. And I didn't, it's crazy that you bring that up, because that's literally what I was thinking about when I, when it happened with when I got the news of Nikki. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
And I just started thinking, this is not this is not eternal. This never was eternal.
Right.
Like, and you gotta have to understand, you gotta love the people that you love now.
Yeah.
If you don't, you never know when something will happen, something will come about. And so, my condolences, to the Giovanni family. And I'm hoping that, healing comes with this, and knowing that, Nikki no longer has to live under the constraints of imperialism anymore. As a woman from the African diaspora, doesn't have to be subjugated to these white hegemonic tendencies and aesthetics. So I wish nothing but healing for the family, and hoping that, Nikki is in a place of divine tranquility, and is living the fruits of her physical labor in her spiritual form. So
yeah, no doubt. And I was thinking the same thing, and we need more warriors like her.
Yeah.
And we appreciate her life. And but yeah, when they affect us, sometimes it feels like we knew them. You know what I'm saying? It feels like we knew them, like they was part of the family. So
that's how I felt with Imam Khalifa Marcellus Williams. That felt like I lost an uncle when that happened.
Yeah,
I had that feeling in my gut. I had that feeling in my gut, and I was actually live with Kalanji, and I was trying to hold it together.
I remember.
It's hard to see another African brother or another African sister from our diaspora be subjugated to this system in the ways that they have been, whether that's historically, or whether that's from a contemporary, vision, or framework. And so, again, I wish nothing but the best for the Giovanni family. And, I hope that, not that this sparks you to want to get closer to your family, but this should spark you to want to, care if you don't already.
Yeah. Get close to your loved ones. This is not forever. But yeah, like you said, rise in power, Nikki Giovanni.
Exactly. You want to go for a little break for Black Power? Or?
Let's hit him with a little break for Black Power, and then get into it.
All right, we'll be back, y'all. Until then, enjoy some words from Dr. Amos Wilson. We'll be back.
Rise up.
That is why, of course, this system is not investing in Black education. It no longer needs Black people to maintain its employment structure. You see it bringing in people from outside of the nation to be employed. You see it even is hiring in the world itself, in other nations and other places. Already, it has reached the point where its need for Black males is pretty much saturated. And it literally then is warehousing us in the jails and prisons and provoking us to kill each other and to destroy each other right here in these streets. And yet we are still organizing the education of our children as if the white man still has jobs waiting for them in multitudes. How different our education would be if we sent our children to school to create jobs for themselves. to create their own economic and political systems, to see themselves as the major sources of their employment. As I remarked earlier today while we were in the radio station, I heard something about some people out here protesting for jobs and pushing these other people for jobs. And I asked the question, do we know how many jobs we really create for other people?
All right.
We are a job creating people.
All right.
We don't realize it because we don't think in terms of nation. You see, we saw ourselves as a nation, we could see that we create jobs like any other nation.
All right.
I mentioned there today, how many jobs are created by black music?
All right.
Yeah, look at the whole structure of the music industry, from promoters to manufacturers of the records and the tapes and what have you, to the whole entertainment field, to the sellers of music in the stores, you know what we say, the Tower Records and the other great sellers of records and music and so forth, advertising that uses our music and all these things. How many thousands of jobs are we creating as people? We're creating them, but they have them. You see? We sing the music, they sell it. We sing the music, they market it. We sing the music, they promote it. You see? We sing the music, they produce great conglomerates like Sony, CBS Music, creating all kinds of jobs. We're creating tremendous jobs for a lot of people. How many jobs do we create just buying from Koreans? Buying from other ethnic groups out here? How many people are we creating employment for in terms of our spending habits as a people and our consumption habits as a people? How many jobs are we creating going to jail? We're creating all kinds of jobs and wealth. And we must come to understand this. We are creating these jobs, and yet we are begging for jobs. This means that in somewhere our consciousness has been impaired. We're begging for what we are making already. And we cannot use our own creations as a source of our own wealth. I told you earlier today that the Creator could not have intended for us as African people to be a poor people if the Creator implanted in our soils all the wealth that was planted there. We talk about the minerals and the oil and the gold and the this and the that that's implanted in African soil. So it seems as if the Creator blessed us from the very beginning with wealth and possibility. Therefore, for us to be going hungry over this wealth and to be starving in the midst of it and to be perceived as a dependent, indebted people while our wealth is being shipped out to other people, we're actually selling a lot of it for pennies and nickels and dimes and less, means that there is something wrong with our consciousness. Because ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, we've said what? That the wealth of a people is ultimately not in their land. But where is it? It's in the mind. The wealth of man is in his mind, in his consciousness.
All right.
We're back.
Let's he spoke about the music industry, bro. As of late, we've seen some jarring evidence come out in regards, or allegations in regards to the Diddy situation that now includes Jay-Z. And so I want to get into that because, again, I think Dr. Amos Wilson said it right, is that yes, we do create these jobs, but again, what do these jobs serve? They serve the needs of imperialism, whether it's going to prison, whether it's laying down tracks, whether it's being a producer, you know, whether it's being a blogger, whatever it is in society. Yes, we do make jobs, but we make jobs that circumvent and suit the needs of imperialism. And so that should be the contradiction that we come to. And so I want to get your take on the whole Jay-Z situation. And two, kind of compound on what Dr. Amos Wilson was talking about in regards to not just jobs, but the music industry in particular. Is that, you know, we sing the songs and then they sell the records and give us a portion of that. So if you may, my God.
Man, the Jay-Z thing, man, to be honest, you know, we've spoken about it off camera. I don't think it's not surprising. Let's just put it that way. You know, it's not surprising to us, but it's nasty. It's nasty shit. We're seeing what's going on. We're talking about a 13-year-old girl, you know, and you know, I don't want to jump out either, you know, and go crazy, like, but whether he did it or not, let me just put it like that. Either way, he knew about shit that was going on. You know what I'm saying? Either way, he knew about shit that was going on. And whether it's him, Diddy, and there's a bunch of other adults, men that are a part of this shit, obviously, and that knew and that know that there was a lot of abuse and oppression going on in these so-called parties. You know what I'm saying? This, to be honest, you know, as a hip hopper myself, as a lover of the culture, you know, I never considered Diddy to be part of the culture, because all he ever talked about and represented was money and bling bling and all this bullshit. But it kind of goes back. I have to be honest, you know, as a hip hopper, and it goes back to like the beginning and the nasty shit that happened with Africa Bambaataa. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that from the beginning, even though I consider hip hop a huge part of my culture, I know that from the beginning there was a super twisted aspect to it. You know what I'm saying? I was talking to my brother earlier about this, you know, and he's right, you know, and it's the truth when you think about it. From the beginning, it was a super twisted aspect to it. Even though what's really about the culture, what's really about hip hop is obviously not that. It's anti-oppression, it's anti-abuse and all of that, but it's always been there, you know, since close to the beginning, because obviously Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation brings into consciousness, you know, and what really comes into gets to become hip hop, that kind of begins through there, really through the Zulu Nation. Thankfully, it's not just Bambaataa. There's obviously a lot of other people that are involved that didn't prey on people, but you know, there's that. Then there's people like Russell Simmons, you know, all these people that have been, you know, and so, you know, there's a big time member of the hip hop community here in France. His name is Solo. He's of a legendary hip hop crew named Assassin, which means assassins. And so he recently came out in his book talking about how he was abused by Bambaataa as a child. You know, when Bambaataa started going on tour and moving around, and he came to Paris, to France, and the culture started growing in France. He was around, you know, some of the pioneers here in France, and he was abused. And it took him a long time to, you know, be able to, you know, speak about it and all of that. So
I can imagine, man.
So you know, it's crazy. Shout out to him. Shout out to Solo for speaking up. But to get back to this Jay-Z shit, man, there's a lot more nasty shit that's gonna come out in these, you know, in these times. A lot more famous people names are gonna be dropping, because they said in the whole thing, they said there's a woman watching, right? There's already like an address or something like that. There's a house, there's things. So that means, you know, more people are gonna go. There's some more investigations to be done and things to be done. Jay-Z claims that, you know, he's gonna flip it around and, you know, pursue them for doing that and all that. And now Jay-Z is suddenly talking about, you know, street code and all of that in his when, you know, come on, man.
Yeah, no.
You know, these cats have been a lot these cats like Diddy and Jay-Z, man, they've been just representing just the oppressor and everything that's, you know, materialistic, capitalistic for the past 20, 30 years. You know what I'm saying? And so at some point, all this shit translates. You know, when you objectify women constantly, when you talk about just, you know, just all shit that's detrimental to your community, at some point, you know, I'm not surprised when we found out you're doing this type of shit. You know what I'm saying? What do we expect? We think these motherfuckers and all these throughout the years in mainly commercial rap, I don't even call it hip hop, throughout all these years, there's a bunch of rape lines throughout these lyrics, man. Literally rape lines, you know what I'm saying? From a bunch of commercial rap.
The shit that fucking Mace was writing for Biggie, I have to question, you know. There's a lot of things, and
there's a lot, man.
It's gonna get nastier. It's gonna get more disgusting. And again, you know, they'll try and play this off as like this is an aesthetic of African culture. No, this is not. That shit is rooted in white hegemonic tendencies. And you know, we do not take credit for shit like that. At all. I can say I speak for every fucking body. It's disgusting behavior, but that when you look at it again through the lens of Dr. Amos Wilson, you know, they've manipulated people into believing that the job that they're doing is helping, and it's not. It's hindering their own communities because you don't have or have seized the control, i.e., the seizing the means of production, which is if you wrote the song, you get every bit of money that comes from writing that song, from singing the song, from all that. Now, there has to be some equitable distribution that gets administered, but that comes through a scientific, dialectical, materialist lens, you know, of sitting down and talking from an equitable perspective and coming to a synthesis, you know. So, you know, the situation of it itself is still ongoing, and I'm pretty sure individuals like Kalanji will be talking about, you know, stuff like this. Like Professor Griff will probably be getting into this and having more information on that. So for the BPM
Professor Griff, definitely, he already dropped one show on it. He's definitely going to be speaking on this again.
Be speaking about it again.
So. Yeah, he's going to be speaking about it again. But you know, it goes back to what you were saying. You know, he's Dr. John Henry Clark. You know, he said that, you know, we're begging for what we're making. You know what I'm saying? That's what he said. We're begging for what we're making. That's exactly right. 100%, you know, and we're it goes to we're fighting for the wrong shit, which is a whole, you know what I'm saying? We're fighting for the wrong shit.
That's a whole other conversation.
We're fighting for the wrong shit. But you know, this is where we're at. All this shit is gonna start coming out. I think it's nasty, but it's necessary at the same time. Like, you know, we gotta let these things come out, man, and hopefully
you gotta let them be exposed, because
you gotta let them be exposed, man. You know, and
what it does is it puts a person in a position that where you're gonna have to self-critique yourself. Okay, you're gonna have to look at, okay, are you going to put all of this aside and still follow through idealization, through fanfare, some type of ill-conceived notion that this guy is good still? Or are you going to take the principled, you know, what would be classified as radical stance? Is this when you say, hey, no, I don't believe in fucking children if it was today or 20 years ago?
Yeah, and on top of that, we're talking about, you know, a 13-year-old girl, and we're talking about grown men. They weren't even young. They were already in their 30s. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about some real sick.
Let's also mention too that
real sick shit.
Jay-Z knew about, or was grooming, essentially. She knew about Beyonce as early as 14, and she messes around with the numbers on when they started dating and actually having, you know, consensual sex. With the first one being 17, 18. So it's like, this guy's a predator. This guy's been a predator, and he has used his celebrity status that he has given through the lens, that celebrity status that Malcolm X talks about, that puppet class of individuals that are there. They're a buffer class that is blocks or manipulates society into believing that that's the end of the road. Is that, and it's like, no, you knock those walls down, and look, there's liberation for you right there. There's scientific socialism for you right there. That's equitable living for you right there. That's not idolizing fucking rapists and misogynists and anti in all of these.
But that goes to we fight for the wrong shit. Because
Exactly.
we're out here fighting for certain things, but
we're too busy out here fighting for a big old stimulus check rather than understanding that the reparations under an imperialist mode is nothing more than that. It's giving back to this system in a way that helps it. Again, that's us giving. That's us getting us. For example, that say for instance, if everybody were to get $350,000 each for reparations, that money goes back into the imperialist system
right away,
quickly, swiftly. I know about 4 or 5 people right now that are going to go buy 2, 3, 4 cars just off tops. They're going to do that, or they're going to buy a house and thinking that we're going to live off the grid. How hard that is to even do nowadays. Or we're going to travel. That's ecotourism. We're going to go and live in another country. That's settler-colonialism. Like all it's going to do is it's going to bolster more of these colonial acts and tactics, that is destructive, which is that you could buy off, genocide. You can't buy off genocide. I'm sorry. That's not how it happens.
100%. I'm with you on that, man.
Any CEOs in France get murked, or just here in the States?
I'm sure they will, because these guys are always talking about niggas in Paris and this and that. So I'm sure they will. At some point, some people in Paris gonna get called out, man. Because we know this shit is global, man. So
no, but did news catch way over there though about the United Healthcare shooter?
I thought you were talking about the Jay-Z and Diddy scandal.
Any CEOs over there? Did they have they gotten murked yet?
No. Actually, I heard about it briefly, but I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so they have a person of interest, which is funny because they say that the ID, the fake ID matches the one that was used at the hostel. And if that's the case, though, from my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so why didn't you release that photo to the public?
Right.
If you already had a picture of the said individual, why didn't you release that to the public? I find that to be, fishy, but, I don't want to get into my own personal perspective on that. I leave that to my own network. So you guys can find that, at the Indigenous Nightmare Network. But United Healthcare CEO was gunned down by what is now known as the Adjuster, and who right now person of interest is Luigi Mangione. There is said sufficient evidence to justify that this is the person, and
So hold on real quick. Let's break that down. How do you think that was done? Like him being gunned down, or what kind of act do you think that is? Could that be like a?
Well, he was gunned down in broad daylight. There's actually a video of it. I don't know if you've seen the video, but he guns him down. He uses a modified version of it's not even like a modified version. It's kind of like a contemporary version of a gun that was oddly similar to what was used in France to kill Nazis, to assassinate Nazis that French spies were using. It's a justifiable act. I can't sit here and say like this man that was head CEO who was about to go to an investor board meeting. Again, people investing into the death of and manipulation. And again, I classify it as clear contract killing.
So you think that was done on some revolutionary shit or some reactionary shit?
I think it was done on some reactionary stuff. I think that I on my network, I'm saying that they haven't really caught the guy, that this is guy's just a patsy. I've stated that this guy, the real shooter, who I think is a DB Cooper. Again, I'm falling under the lines of potential conspiratorial, but I don't believe what comes out of the mouths of the armed agents of the state. I think they're dumb enough to know that if they didn't catch this guy, they gotta have to have a fail safe, a plan B. So they gotta manipulate the story, coerce it, and to fit their narrative, to make it seem like, to justify them existing by catching this dude, by saying, hey, like, look, we caught him, so you guys can cool it on the we need to be defunded, give us more money type shit, manipulating society into believing these bullshit ass notions. And when it comes to the situation, the dude who was gunned down, Brian Thompson, he was a fucking billionaire, and he had made billions, if not millions and billions, off of literally denying people claims that would essentially help them survive. And so, for one life versus a person who made billions off of thousands of people dying, I think is very justifiable. I also think too, as a people, we should have a major outcry if this is the guy that they caught. And yes, he should be free. And we should highlight at the fact that we have oligarchs out there right now that are not held accountable for being completely complicit in the murders of individuals, the genocides abroad, the genocide, the continuous genocide here, the raping of land resources, exploiting people, to circumvent the needs of corporate capitalism and accelerated imperialism. We are at a stage now where, we will see more of these. And I would like to. I'm sorry, but it might sound disgusting to most people, but I want to see more of this. I want to see more of people coming out and saying, hey, you don't deserve and essentially, to be who you are. I think that you're the scum of the earth, or parasites, as was described. It was in that said manifesto. It's either a 2 or 3 page manifesto, but nonetheless, this guy that they picked up, if everything, and it doesn't pan out, the dude had a 130 plus IQ. Like, I don't see. I'm connecting dots that I don't think other people are connecting, and it's okay. I'll be the conspiracy guy. The
IQ was too high, huh?
The IQ is just too high for me and again, I don't know. I don't know. It just is a tricky situation. They caught him at a McDonald's. An employee, I guess, called in to the police or whatever, that there was somebody that was there. They had, for some reason, they said that he had came from Atlanta. It was just like a bunch. It was all over the place, and it just like for them to have everything that they needed, And again, you can't, unless you have facial recognition that can identify him and put him in that area, you have any type of evidence. I mean, they said that was the same ID, so to say, that was used to check into the hostel. I don't believe that, because if that was the case, then why didn't you put that picture out there?
Right.
I see
what you're saying.
You put the picture of him masked. Okay, so either that was a manipulative act that you did on society to get them. I don't know what it is. All I can say is just certain things don't add up, and I might sound a little, cuckoo, but. I just don't think that this dude I think he's a patsy. I think that this shit is far deeply rooted in something that is far past our complexity.
We can't put anything past them. You know what I'm saying? So, like you said, I'm not.
They lie about everything.
They lie about everything. So
like, why would I believe them that they caught this masked, assassin? Assassin's Creed and of it itself, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And that's just
I feel you, man. I'm not mad at that.
But like what's your thoughts on it though? Because you asked me, I'm asking you this question back, like, do you think this is a justifiable act? Do you in some instance want to see potentially more of this, or just a radicalized movement that, you know, outlaws, you know, healthcare systems in some aspect? Because we got to start talking about how we're going to combat, you know, healthcare systems that are hurting our diaspora.
Yeah, for sure. I'm for universal healthcare, obviously, and I think, you know, I want to see a movement. You know, I want to see a movement that can, you know, radicalize this thing and, you know, make it happen, make it be because it's so necessary, you know, and it's a subject that, you know, we don't touch on enough. But, you know, universal healthcare should be the way it is, you know, obviously, but it has to be a movement. It has to, you know what I'm saying? There has to be a movement behind it, pushing it heavy. And that's the way we've ever gotten anything we've gotten. It's through a movement, you know, a heavy movement. So, but I do believe that these types of acts can, you know, spark something, you know, beginning to a movement, to things that like that, you know what I'm saying? Or at least get certain people, you know, understanding, you know, seeing what's going on. But like you said, man, you know, scum of the earth, man, you know. Yeah. So I believe in the movement, yo, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So people gotta get behind it and, you know, stay in the struggle.
Yeah, and the comrade Ryan, he's all full throttle. He believes that this isn't the dude as well. So when you got white America out here tonight.
Yeah.
Nah, shout out to Ryan.
Shout out to Ryan. Well, you know, Ryan's he's not your typical white American.
Yeah, he's not your typical white American.
He's definitely not your typical white American. So,
but nonetheless, he's the comrade. He has deep rooted intellect in regards to how to not to be a settler.
Right.
But yeah, I think we could take a quick break for Black Power and then come back with some news regarding Syria.
Yeah, let's do that
and whatnot. All right, my guy.
Appreciate
let's see here. We got so many breaks for Black Powers in here, you guys. I'm scrolling for seconds.
Let's get a good one. We ain't been on in a minute. You know, we got to get the people. We got to get the people to connect.
Let's see here.
Shout out to y'all, man. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe. You know, let us know what you think, what you want to see, who you want to see. You know,
exactly.
Here at Black Power Media, we try to get the best guests to come through and chop it up about revolution.
Hopefully Laeth Maroof will be back on BPM, waiting for a response back. But I already know the severity of the issue and how he is living under siege right now. So, you know, I give all the patience that I have, you know, for not just myself, but what I'd want for myself. But in that, if I was in that position, but also just in general, the dude does a lot of so much work and such a good comrade too as well. You know, left a heartfelt email, you know, just expressing solidarity as to indigenous individuals from different parts of the globe. You know, and how he believes that this type of media, Black Power Media Reloaded, you know, Vital Hoops, all of us, you know, here in, you know, my network, we all, you know, we charge colonialism. It's all essential because it's rooted in indigenous intellect. It's rooted from understanding settler colonialism from a perspective of being individuals that have been bound via their ancestors have been bound by chattel transatlantic slave trade, which is settler colonialism.
That's right.
So, you know, deeply rooted. And so a video we'll be playing right now is of Chairman O'Malley Yeshitela, and I want to emphasize, send out your letters, outcry. I want individuals to flood the court house when you know this, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 15th, but I'll you know come back with an update regarding that. But until then, enjoy Chairman O'Malley Yeshitela talking about a real African Union and what that means. Truly.
Rise up.
My unconditional solidarity with President Maduro and the government and people of Venezuela, who are currently under attack, savage attack, by the declining world hegemon of the United States. I think it's absolutely necessary to say that coming from that country, and especially looking at the fact that the United States travels the world preening, presenting itself as the guardian of democracy and the rights of the peoples around the world, where the reality is that Africans who are colonized in the United States represent at least half of the largest prison population in the world. There are more Africans in prison in the United States than there are people in Djibouti or in Equatorial Guinea. And so we find it very difficult, also recognizing that by their own estimates, it would take 228 years for the income of Africans colonized in the United States to equal that of the colonial white population. So it is absolutely necessary for me to stand here today before you expressing total opposition to the United States government terroristic actions against the people of Venezuela with an attempt to starve the people into opposition to their government. Mr. President, brothers and sisters, comrades, it is also necessary for us to say that this question of a closer union with Africa, or between Africans, or within Africa, is not a purely academic question, despite the fact that this debate is occurring within the pinnacle of bourgeois academia. That there is a natural, historical inclination for Africa and African people to be united, which is one of the reasons I am here today. The truth of the matter is that this discussion about the unity of Africa, union of Africans, started much earlier than any incursion, as it might be characterized, of China or the Trump administration into Africa. The reality is that Africa came under assault some 600 years ago when Portugal first came and captured African people and initiated the process that would begin capitalism and would establish and consolidate the identity of Europeans in the world. It is a reality that capitalism rests upon a foundation of African slavery. Africans were first capital. And in order for this to occur and to last, it was absolutely necessary to keep African people divided so that we could not resist this horrible incursion on Africa that continues up to now. I think it's important to be able to say that. I think that we have to say that we've seen example after example by African people to unite. We've seen what used to be warring tribes in this geographical terrain that we occupy at this moment, able to achieve a sense of sameness that people refer to as nations, founded on a common economy that came from slavery and colonialism. This is the basis of the unity that we see. If there is a problem with the European Union today, it is because the foundation, the economic foundation of capital, of imperialism, is being stressed by the struggles of the oppressed peoples of the world to take back their resources from this parasite that bleeds Africa, that bleeds the world, that bleeds Afghanistan, that bleeds the people of Yemen who are dying by the thousands even as we have this discussion. This is the basis of a Brexit. It can't stand together anymore because the host is rejecting the parasite. And it's creating crises throughout Europe and throughout the imperialist world. I think it's necessary, brothers and sisters, to say that there has been a natural trajectory by African people for closer union. We know that we're talking about having this discussion in part because in 1884-85, Europeans sat at a table in Berlin, Germany, not a single African there, and carved up Africa into the territories that we now sometimes call countries and illogically refer to as nations. Africans didn't do that. It was Europe that did that. It was Europe and imperialism that required Africa to be divided so that the resources of Africa, both human and material, could come and pave the streets in London and grow the buildings in Amsterdam and bring clean water to New York, while the streets in Sierra Leone are not paved. And the people in Sierra Leone do not have clean water. And there's no national electric grid there. It is necessary to keep Africa divided by European imperialism and by all the imperialism in order to continue to suck the resources from Africa so that cell phones could exist here, so that Steve Jobs and the others could achieve some great notoriety from the coltan that comes from Congo, where Leopold killed at least 12 to 15 million Africans in order to conquer and keep Africa in the condition it's in today. We talk about a united Africa and African Union because of what European imperialism has done to Africa to keep us divided. We know it's true. We saw 100 years or so ago, Marcus Garvey organized the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities Leagues that stretched across the globe. More than 11 million African people everywhere were connected to this. Africa for Africans, at home and abroad. That was the cry. Not Africans for Nigerians that didn't even exist until the British created it in 1915. And Flora Shaw, the mistress who would become the wife of Frederick Lugard, came up with the name nigger area. Not this false national consciousness that has been imposed on Africans around the world. So that when the Portuguese found shrimp on West Africa and then named it for the Portuguese word for shrimp, Cameroon, it is not true that they are shrimp despite the fact that the people call themselves Cameroonians today. It is a false national consciousness. The false national consciousness that created the American Negro, that created the Black Brit, and the Afro-Swede. We are one Africa, one nation, and we must have closer union. But in order for that to happen, it has to be a revolutionary union. The Organization of African Union, created on May 25th, 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, was part of an effort to circumvent efforts by Kwame Nkrumah to build a single union of African states. And instead, we come up with an Organization of African Union that codified the colonial borders that were created by Europe in 1884 and 85. We have to be able to break out of this, but it's going to take revolution in order to do this. African revolution in order to do this. African revolution that will destroy imperialism and the world economy that's responsible for the growing immiseration of the masses of people around the world. Uhuru.
Yeah, that video never gets old.
Never does. That's what I was thinking about, man.
Yeah, sit right here.
You know.
Oh, yeah. Let me put my bad, man.
Speaks about, the process of colonialism in the motherland. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Process
Yeah.
of colonialism in the motherland. The importance of an African union, but the importance of that union being a revolutionary union.
Exactly.
Not just
Exactly.
unity for unity's sake. And so
Exactly.
that is so important, man, and for us in the diaspora as well.
Yeah, and we have to a portion of that speech that was given at the Oxford Union. I think it's Oxford Union. It's like if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like a membership. Like you got to be a member to be there, or be added as a member or whatnot. But nonetheless, he talked about in that speech, how they cause dysfunction, and how they have done that in Africa through manipulation, making certain causing dysfunction so that there isn't no collective solidarity, and that's exactly what we see going on in West Asia in regards to the situation ongoing, and not just now Syria, now forefronts that Israel and Western imperialism is fighting on in West Asia. We have Syria, Lebanon. We can throw in Yemen. We have Palestine. Obviously in Gaza. We have Iraq. There's multiple areas in which there's there's multiple countries that are involved in this, and so I'm glad that I was able to summarize this article after reading it by Ben Norton from the Geopolitical Economy Report, stating that the recent developments in Syria, particularly in the seizure of Aleppo by Hay'at Tahrir al-Sham, HTS is what it's abbreviated to, underline the ongoing imperialist manipulations by external powers in the region. The article discusses how HTS, a rebanded al-Qaeda affiliate, again, al-Qaeda was also was an ally to the West during the Soviet era, and Osama bin Laden. There's an article that's been floating around for quite some time that goes over how al-Qaeda was known as a peace wanting, but they're extremists at heart. But they are a rebranded al-Qaeda affiliate and has grown into strength with tacit or direct support for foreign actors, including the United States and Israel, both of which have pursued policies that perpetuate chaos and undermine the Syrian sovereignty. HTS, led by Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, has worked to rebrand itself as a more moderate group, distancing itself, quote unquote, from extremist roots as an al-Qaeda affiliate. However, the group's actions and ideological foundations remain deeply tied to extremism, making it a destabilizing force in Syria. Again, Mohammed al-Jolani is now looking like an Arab version of Zelensky. He wears the green, the green shirt, military green shirt. He's cleaned his beard up. He had a talking in 2021. He sat down with CNN. So, right then off the tops that, he's had media training with the West. So again, this is al-Qaeda doing the West bidding and completely destabilizing Syria so that it can circumvent, that and give it all allocations and extraction of resources to the West. It says, as noted in the article, HTS's takeover of Aleppo demonstrates the enduring presence of armed factions that benefit from geopolitical agendas rather than the interests of the Syrian people. And that's from the article, end quote. The article highlights the United States' longstanding involvement in Syria as part of its broader imperialist strategy. Programs like the CIA's covert operations to arm and train Syrian rebels have bolstered factions such as HTS. There's a video that on my network I wasn't able to play, and on here I probably won't be able to play as well because we're actually talking about it right now and it takes time to download and process. It goes over the fact that there's this an intelligence woman from the CIA that goes over how they created certain organizations to destabilize the region. We're making protests, to crack, create pressure and tension. Again, these are all colonial tactics to manipulate to their economic system, their infrastructure, and completely make it implode. And, you know, that's manipulation. That's settler colonialism at its finest. Says right here, the article highlights also that through its interventions, the United States continues to promote colonial systems that manipulate local conflicts to maintain its global dominance. The article states, by backing groups, such groups, Washington ensures the continuation of instability, aligning with its goal to weaken states that resist its hegemony. Its involvement in Syria underscores its complicity. They're bombing Damascus to the Stone Age right now, you guys. Complicity in these imperialist machinations. According to this article, Israel has provided logistical, and it's not according, it is evidence, it's factual, logistical and medical support to rebel groups, including those who are linked to Al-Qaeda, under the guise of securing its borders. There's another article that was put out in 2022 that talks about how this same group loves Israel and wants to have a relationship with it. So again, these are right-wing extremist, groups that are rooted in extremism and borderline genocidal tactics that they get from the West. They're learned to carry these out. This supports this support has allowed extremist factions to thrive, further fragmenting Syria and undermining its territorial integrity. The article asserts Israel's actions are not about peace or security, but about maintaining fractured Syria that proposes non-unified threat to its regional dominance. Now, there's another article that came out that you can find that I went over on the Indigenous Nightmare Network, where I go over the fact that Netanyahu says that he offers peace to Syria. Peace to him means destruction and means bombing Damascus to the Stone Age. He has already taken over the Golan Heights, which a small chunk of the Golan Heights is named the Trump Heights, and that was a gift to Trump when Trump was in office for winning the election. We now know that there has been on the table deals that have been made on the side where Trump has alluded to saying that the war will end before he gets in the office. But we've also alluded to that Hegseth, who is the soon-to-be defense secretary, is someone who is openly and avidly right now creating ethno-fascist Christian ideology through a lens of stating that Iran, again, is an area for which that needs to be invaded. He is believes in modern day crusades. You can actually go to yesterday's conversation I had on my network with Reverend Kiana Jones Moore, where we go over the co-opting of the gospel of Christianity and the blasphemy that has been, evangelical fascism, democratic fascism. The article concludes that these interventions are part of a broader imperial narrative where powers like the U.S. and Israel exploit conflicts to advance their strategic interests. By supporting groups like HTS, they perpetuate cycles of violence and instability. That's mass escalation, you guys. That's what imperialism needs in order for it to float. It needs to destabilize. It needs violence. It needs these cycles of violence and instability in order to ensure that Syria remains fragmented. That's the only way that it itself ensures that it has control over not just its oil fields, because we have to understand too, if there's oil anywhere, the U.S. wants it. Okay, yeah. Whether it's Kurd, whether it's Saudi oil, whatever it may be, they want it. This is yet another example of how the U.S. and its allies have maintained their colonial grip on West Asia, prioritizing their geopolitical agendas over the well-being of the region's people. They don't give a shit about Syrians. They don't. No. And that's why I've emphasized, too, we can classify, yes, that this was a 45-year regime that has ended, okay? But I would not trade that in for an imperialist regime that's going to allow extremists to come in and completely, they're already stealing the central bank, which means the infrastructure financially is gone. They bombed their Air Force bases. That means their Navy gone. Okay. All of these things are gone. Their infrastructure, Damascus is crumbling. Syria is crumbling right now. al-Assad is somewhere in Moscow or in Russia, regrouping of, I would assume, to counteract this. But there was also evidence to prove that Iran and Russia had came to him and said, hey, this is going to happen. And he brushed it off, and it immediately happened. So, this is a tricky situation, but from a geopolitical perspective, from an anti-imperialist perspective, we should not look at this as a victory for the Syrian people. This is not a victory for them by any means. This is a huge blow to the resistance. And what we're seeing is that what they weren't able to do in Gaza, what they weren't able to do in Lebanon, they now will try and do in Syria in hopes that they can try and encroach. These are opening up conversations for truly multi-plural proxy wars in West Asia that are already ongoing. And so I know I went into my mode.
You're good. See, what they do is, they create misery around the world, man. They create misery, and then people are in desperate situations, right? People are in desperate situations because they create misery everywhere. So then they destabilize, these governments, and then, try to create, pro-Western regimes, That's what they do. That's what they do around. But see, we see how, it speaks about, Israel giving weapons, right, to these. But we know where does Israel get these weapons from, right?
From the U.S., yeah.
From the U.S. There's only a few countries actually that are really manufacturing weapons at a high level that they can, move them. They can truly move them to make money off of them, in the U.S. But France is one of those countries, that makes a lot of money off of weapons. And so, it's a vicious circle, like you said, and it's tricky, but it's just nasty. It's always the same thing over and over. They create misery all over.
Yeah, and this is in the show notes for you if you don't know. This is Article 5 for you, comrade. And, and this goes over the fact that, Netanyahu just blatantly, quote unquote, extends hand of peace to Syrians is really just as they fucking strike Damascus. And so this was on December 8th. And so new revelations have come in that they have been successful in completely obliterating the Air Force. So they no longer have portions of military. Their military is gone. The Syrian military at this point is nothing more than, I would have to say, a couple thousand soldiers. Some of which are probably injured and are being heavily targeted by individuals like ISIL or ISIS, whatever you want to classify it, by also HTS, which is a rebranded as we've gone over, a new Al-Qaeda. And so again, this is just another blatant manipulation of the public.
Right.
And going over, and this is in recent airstrikes on Damascus, coinciding with Prime Minister Netanyahu's so-called extension of a hand of peace to Syria, end quote, highlights the contradictions of Israel's ongoing colonial project. Under the guise of promoting peace, Israel has continued its aggressive acts in Syria, a clear demonstration of its commitment to imperialist policies that disrupt regional sovereignty and stability. According to this article, Netanyahu, while claimed to seek peace with Syrians, including various communities such as Druze, Kurds, Christians, and Muslims, end quote, Israel jets simultaneously target Syrian infrastructure in Damascus. So again, while he's saying he wants peace, this dude is causing whole ass destruction. That is imperialism for you. Yeah. That just goes to show you cannot take anything that they say seriously, which also goes back to what I was saying. I don't believe that they got that shooter, but that's a story for a different day. This duality reveals a familiar pattern in colonial narratives, offering symbolic gestures of goodwill while maintaining the structural violence that sustains domination. Netanyahu's rhetoric about fostering peace cannot be divorced from the reality of Israel's military aggression, which undermines the very idea of sovereignty for neighboring states like Syria. The airstrikes targeted Damascus at a time when Syria has already struggled post-war recovery, exacerbating the nation's vulnerability. So again, they came in at a moment in time where they seen that al-Assad regime was gone. So they went in and said, you know what, okay, while those extremists that we know were manipulating, Zaddy America, is manipulating them for us. So all we got to do is just go in and continue to do what we were doing, but we just ramp it up in certain areas like in Syria. And so we know that, again, Damascus right now is currently under attack. We know that by continuing to launch attacks on Syrian infrastructure, Israel is reaffirming its role on extensions of Western imperialism and ambitions in that region, which is oil, perpetuating instability, meaning dysfunction, meaning famine, meaning anti-Islamic behavior, and resource exploitation, whatever resource that might be. It could be anything from, again, oil to anything that is a commodity to imperialism. Concluding the article, underscores Netanyahu's assertion that Israel's act in Syria are about ensuring security. They're not about ensuring security. They're about ensuring the continuation of corporate capitalism, Zionism, and settler colonialism.
Yeah, that's what they're about. Exactly.
This narrative aligns with the larger imperialist agenda championed by the United States, which proxies like Israel to maintain control over West Asia. Israel's airstrikes are not isolated incidents, but are deeply intertwined with the U.S.'s broader objective of undermining resistance movements and ensuring compliance from states that dare to challenge hegemony, which is what they've essentially done. By targeting Damascus while speaking on peace, Israel reveals a dual approach, a settler-colonial state that extends hollow offers of reconciliation, and that's not even reconciliation at this point, it's manipulation, it's coercion, while engaging in acts of war that erode the sovereignty and livelihoods of its neighbors. The continuation of such policies serves as a reminder of the imperial order enduring presence with the U.S. And its allies, maintaining the grip on the region through acts of aggression and domination disguised as security measures, the same way that they disguise the term humanitarian aid. Anytime you hear the U.S. saying they're giving humanitarian aid, they're killing people. Okay, they're killing people. So it just goes to show you the hand that's being fed is being used essentially to slap the shit out of the sovereignty of now the Syrian people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Nah, you broke that down well, man.
Yeah, sorry. No, I went down. Down the line, man. My guy, I left you no room, my guy. My bad.
It's all love.
my bad.
That's great. That's great, man. It's necessary. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah. Well, if you want, my guy, if you want to cut it short, we could cut it short. I feel
we spoke. We hit a couple important points. Today. It's a good comeback. It's a good comeback show.
Yeah. Good Kickstarter. So
good Kickstarter.
I really do appreciate everybody that's tuned in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, you guys. And so I'm hoping somebody will be available tomorrow.
You definitely, I'm sure you'll have somebody. I won't be able to be here, but I want to let everybody make sure you tune in tomorrow with the comrade Isaac, and tune in on Friday, please. I think Friday we should have a packed show. We should have a full house on Friday morning.
Okay.
So, I think I'm just manifesting. I'm manifesting. Hopefully,
so that means Kalanji's clocking in this week or what?
Hey, man, we might have the return of the Mac.
The return of the Mac.
He might be back. We don't know yet. It's a surprise.
Shoot. Well, nonetheless, you guys, I really do appreciate everybody that tuned in. We will see you guys tomorrow. At least I will. Fernando will be back
I'll be back Friday.
On Friday.
But I'll be back Friday and Thursday. Thursday, the new Vital Hoop is dropping. So Vital Hoops. So make sure you check that one out as well. And we appreciate you.
All right,
Uhuru.
man. Uhuru.
Rise up.
Rise up, everybody. We'll see you guys.
Sometimes the riot is a quiet one. Well, the battle is to love yourself and function in society where voices of reason are muted by anxiety, like gaining notoriety is selling your soul. So we tend to go no deeper than the shallow water level, trying to keep us overhead in the face of all the slurs and the stares, mentally frozen, paralyzed by fear of failure and success. So we lock, stock, barrel, running while it's crumbling. All these towers and they're babbling, but the baby's in the bath and the stash under the bed on my head, spinning from the circles and the puppets and the strings that they pull. Then we move. Reactionary warfare never produces when it's on the field. Feeble and foolish. What tools and what weapons are we using? We need some new ones. Real revolution. It's real solutions. Well, we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Got my inner me looking like my enemy. Real revolution. Well, my inner me, really a mirror for the galaxy. New time, brand new paradigms, new contracts to sign. They thought that this would all be televised, though it's happening right before our very eyes. It's on the inside, with their guns cocked. When that rock drops, standing on the rooftop, praying that the mountaintop can live inside the valley. People tell me the reward is somewhere off in heaven, like heaven's only in the sky. Like chariots are swinging, like God is something separate from yourself, from your wealth, from your lover, from your neighbor. Oh, your savior is coming in your own name, coming with the face the same. Real revolution, it's real solutions. Well, we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Got my inner me looking like my enemy. Real revolution, where my enemy is really a mirror for the galaxy.